Hello and welcome to Nerdrunners. I'm Mark, and joining me as always is my favourite 5 influence unique connection. It's Stef.
Hi everybody. 5 influence, eh? That's who do I work for?
I don't know.
Am I a neutral 5 influence connection? Is that a thing?
Possibly. I think maybe you could be the first, because they went big on the 5 influence assets in the universe of tomorrow. So maybe you could be the first 5 influence neutral connection.
Oh, I don't know. What would my power be? Never turns up on time.
Never turns up on time, and also is somehow behind the scenes pulling the strings.
Yeah. I'm like a good Theophilus backbiter.
The first time you score an agenda each turn, host it on Stef. That agenda cannot be removed. If Stef gets to 7 points, he wins the game.
No, yeah, Stef wins. No one else wins.
Yeah.
Neither you nor the court wins. Stef wins. Oh dear me. Anyway, how are you?
I'm
it's
very
been
well,
a while.
thank you.
You've been away. You've been globe-trotting.
I have. I went to Italy with Becky for.
It's one of the first times you've
4
been
days.
abroad, or they've let you abroad in a long time.
Well, we went to Edinburgh together, but that doesn't really count as abroad.
It's not abroad.
It's a different country.
It's a different
They
abroad.
have a different flag.
Do they? I mean, their
Well.
flag makes up my flag. Is that by the law of averages?
Okay.
That makes it my flag.
It was the first properly
I'm
abroad
sorry,
time.
Scotland. No, I don't mean it.
But no, Italy was really, really nice. Becky had done ludicrous amounts of research and planned it to a T, and was flabbergasted when she heard she was flabbergasted when she heard my approach to holidaying would be, I don't know, we'll just have a look around and see what looks interesting, and go there and do that. She's like, no, we're doing this museum at this time, and then, to be fair, like, she had planned it so well that the weather was going to be sunny, rainy, sunny for the 3 main days we were there. And so it's like, okay, so we're going to do all the great tourist spots on the first day, then we'll do museums on the second day when it's raining, and then on the third day when it's sunny again, we'll go out in all the gardens, and it actually works out really well. Had a really, really lovely time. I somehow managed to avoid getting sunburned in Italy, but somehow got sunburned in Scotland when we were there last year. So I'm not sure how that happened.
You have broken physics. I think that's what's happened.
Yeah,
there.
well, considering I go from pasty to just overcooked in about 20 minutes of sunlight. That's an interesting. But no, yeah, it was really good, and the museum, like, just so many stories. Like we wandered into their natural history museum.
Whereabouts in Italy were you?
Florence. So yeah, we went to the natural history museum because we'd got a discount for there after we went to the Galileo Museum on the second day, and it was nice, and it was quite interesting. But the thing that I couldn't get over was the taxidermy of all the animals, and it did kind of feel like, no disrespect to Florence and the Natural History Museum, but it did kind of feel like they'd only got animals that other natural history museums had rejected for not being up to scratch. Like,
yeah, no offense, Florence, but your history.
But to be fair, that made it a lot more fun, because I've got like loads of pictures of derpy-looking crocodiles and who are cross-eyed, and like all these gorillas which are just stitched up a little bit wrong.
Actually amazing. Gorillas that just look a bit wrong. Like a gorilla with an alligator's head. Like, gorilla gator. Great round Florence was here many, many years ago.
Oh, I wish they'd had gorilla gators now, but they didn't. Oh.
Gorilla gator.
And I resisted from having pizza for every meal, which I wanted to, but I thought I should sample at least a different bit of like Italian cuisine on every time we have a meal. So I was like,
so you had a bolognese, and then the rest of it was pizza.
And I had like a calzone and had some like gnocchi as well.
That's still a pizza. I'm going to go on a limb. A calzone is still a pizza. It's a folded pizza.
It's a proper calzone. Doesn't have tomato sauce. It's basically a cheese toastie. And then
really not selling it to me. A cheese toastie is essentially a shit pizza.
it had ham in as well, and
you had ham in.
I did. It was lovely.
It was glorious.
It was a glorious cheese and ham toastie that I had. What else did we do? Oh, yeah, just did so much walking as well. Like, just extremely tired, and then we like gorged on gelato and other sweet treats and biscottis and I can't remember, Cantusky or something like that. It's called like they're like little biscuits that have like almonds in, which are really nice as well. And yeah, I did kind of have to refrain from trying to climb the Duomo after playing lots of Assassin's Creed 2 and thinking, I actually know how to climb this building. Because you look at it and you think...
I'm going to go out on a limb and say you could not climb that building.
I could give it a damn good go.
You think you could.
See, you think you'd start at the bottom, but no, you start on the right-hand side and go up the towery bit, and then you jump over about halfway up, so... Because there's not enough handholds to get up there.
Speaking of Assassin's Creed,
yeah,
are you looking at playing the new one?
So, I'm not sure about Syndicate actually, because I like Black.
Super bored, like I did.
I like Black Flag, but I just enjoyed the sailing and piracy, and I never really got on with the story. In fact, I've still not finished the story of Black Flag because I just couldn't care less when
you don't really need to.
You're walking around there, the fake Ubisoft office, and pretending you're a game designer by going into a pirate's memories. And then with Unity, I played it when it was still quite buggy, and we tried doing some of the co-op, and that was kind of fun, but it was just
very shonky.
The two things that really turned me off Unity, and I don't think I played more than about 2 hours of it, and that was firstly the fact that when the game starts, they're getting slightly further away from this whole Animus thing every time, but it's the woman in the opening cutscene talks to you directly as the player, so it gets really meta. And it's like, oh, your games console is an Animus, and you are now going to do research for us assassins, because otherwise you're doing research for the Templars, and that's bad. I'm like, oh, just fuck off and let me be a French guy stabbing people, alright?
Can I not just experience history? Like, we did Desmond, it was very funny.
Yeah.
But we don't care.
We've had enough of that now. Actually, quick sidebar, on the reason why they put in the whole bullshit future stuff is because they did some, like, market research or whatever, and they were worried that it being a purely historical game would turn people off it. So they put in the bullshit future stuff to, like, go, oh, don't worry about the history. Look, future, sci-fi, ancient gods and solar flares. But that's just the worst bit. But the other thing that really put me off Unity was the fact that none of the characters have French accents. They're all Londoners. And it's just like, every other game you've done has always had, it might have been in Italy or in Constantinople, but they've always had the right kind of accent. And now it's just like, why don't these people have French accents? It really I was tempted to put it on French with English subtitles. That's how annoyed I was getting at the game.
Well, have I told you that I've played The Witcher through with Polish on?
Oh, really?
Polish and English subtitles. Yeah, I represent the home country. No, I just thought, it would be an interesting thing to see what it sounded like. Actually, really, really entertaining.
Oh.
A very fun, interesting time.
Awesome.
I highly recommend it.
But yeah, I might try Syndicate a bit because it is set in London and Victorian era, and I don't know if this one's...
but London sucks.
But now you have a grappling hook and can play as a woman.
I do not give it us.
I know, it's just poor Assassin's Creed.
Poor Assassin's Creed, indeed.
I know.
Anyway, sorry. Continue talking about Florence and things you were doing.
That was pretty much it. Actually, it was mostly a lot of sightseeing and
walking
sightseeing, covering a lot of ground. Walking like 10 miles a day to kind of see everything. The last thing we saw was we got recommended this really great view lookout point on top of a really big hill. It kind of looked out over the entirety of Florence. You could see the city on one side and the countryside on the other. And there was it's called like Michelangelo's something. I can't remember what it's called now. But it wasn't far from our hotel. And so we went there, but it's actually just a car park with a Michelangelo with a Statue of David replica statue in it.
You got shysted by a car park.
No, that's actually the place to go for the view, but it just so happens to be just a car park that has a fucking exquisite view of the city of Florence. So there's like these hundreds of people just standing looking at Florence with this really kind of not very nice car park behind you. But that was quite good. The view, but the main problem I had was it's just so much hill. Oh, Florence is so steep. I think I climbed like 1,000 steps a day just going up hills. Like even when we went to the gardens on the third day, I was like, oh right, we've done so much like uphill walking, I'm ready for some flat landscaped garden. No, the gardens are just slopes with grass on them, and it's just for fuck's sake.
God damn it!
Yes. But yeah, that was pretty much my Florence adventure.
We should probably talk about what we're going to do this week. So this week, I haven't had any time to play Netrunner because I've been burned out with work. Things going horribly, rapidly, badly there, or they were anyway. They're better now, but and I haven't actually played anything. I had a discussion with Mark, and you haven't played too much, have you?
No, I can do a quick recap of the 2 decks. I've given 1 game of each.
Yeah,
that's all I've managed to play recently.
So I think this is going to be a Sleepy Cast, where we actually just talk about the stuff we do when we aren't playing Netrunner.
I like that.
It's a hostful.
Hostful, yeah. So anyone's familiar with Nerdist.
Yeah, for anyone who's familiar with Nerdist, it's just going to be me and Mark talking balls for about an hour. Because Data and Destiny will come out, and then I guarantee we'll have a lot to talk about.
Oh boy, we'll have a lot. Well, that's at least 2 episodes right there.
Yeah, the Data and Destiny.
Well, we talked so much about Order and Chaos, that became 2 episodes.
Yeah, it actually did.
I wouldn't be surprised if we end up doing like 4 episodes, because there's the 3 runner factions.
Oh god.
But that's
anyway,
like 2 months of material. Oh. Anywho.
So, sorry if you came in for hot Netrunner news.
Well, we'll give
we
you...
just don't have any.
We'll give you some Netrunner chat now, and then you can listen to us be sleepy and talk about other things for a little bit.
Anyway, you go on.
Cool. Yeah, well, the first deck that I've been toying around with is a Fisk deck. And, I mean, immediately, Woman in the Red Dress jumped out to me as like a Fisk synergistic card. I was like, yeah, I want to try something. I want to try and make that work. I think I could do something cool with that. So I made a deck that is currently called DJ Fisk's Red Dress. Because I also threw in Turntable into the deck as well.
It just paints Fisk as a cross-dressing DJ, which is absolutely fine.
Yeah, why not?
I can actually see that with Fisk.
Yeah, yeah, maybe.
No, he seems like the type. Like he
gets home from his investment seminars and he's like,
he's just like, he's like an Eddie Izzard kind of figure. In fact, he does look a little bit like Eddie Izzard.
I was just gonna say, yeah, from the thumbnail.
Oh my god, we've cracked the code, Mark. We've cracked the code.
Oh boy, we know we're onto it now. We know where FFG get their inspiration for running designs.
Comedy shows.
Yeah, Steph's favourite stand-up comedians.
Hey. Yeah, it's true.
So, the main kind of idea of the deck is to, as I imagine most Fist decks are, is to kind of flood the HQ with cards and then just try and steal from there, really. So Woman in the Red Dress is perfect for that R&D lock without even having to get into R&D. I think yesterday was the first time I'd actually played with Woman, and it was just so good. It's like, oh, so you've got an Adonis on top of your R&D. Do you want to draw it? No? Cool, I'm not going to run there then. Yeah, you can draw that next turn.
People really underestimate the abilities of that card and what it can actually do to players.
Like, the minute my opponent turned over a Pyrrhec from the Woman in the Red Dress ability, and just looked at me with, like, rabbit in the headlight, deer in the headlight type eyes.
No.
It's just like,
oh no.
This is going into my hand. Especially because I think at the time they only had a pop-up window over R&D. So it's like, yeah, it's probably wise to draw that. And so, to kind of complement the... I mean, I have no R&D pressure due to the 8 influence I have on Woman in the Red Dress. And I was also playing Hostage with it as well, just to kind of ensure that I drew the card, which I've never played with Hostage before. And yeah, it's a fine tutor, and it helped me get the card out really quickly. I like it as well, because it's just like, okay, so I'll play Hostage, and I'll use the 3 other credits that I had to get Woman in the Red Dress out right now. Like, none of this kind of put it in your hand. It's basically, because I often feel that Special Order is basically a double, because you very rarely Special Order for something, and then don't install it straight away. So it kind of feels like that step further from making Special Order into that. It's like, oh, Hostage is a double, and you can install the thing if you want to. But no, Hostage is great. Finds Woman in the Red Dress super easily. Woman in the Red Dress, perfect for R&D lock without ever touching R&D. And then I've got Gang Sign and HQ Interface and Turntable in there as well, just to kind of mess with the scoring. So like if they you eventually flood their hand with so many agendas that they can't ditch, it basically means that if they do score an agenda, and it's only running the central breakers, so there's a high chance they will score an agenda anyway. It's like your gang sign HQI kicks in, and you just get the agendas from HQ anyway, which is quite nice. And then turntables there because I figured, because I just want to run the central breakers and sneak door, then if they do end up scoring something good, and I end up scoring something crappy, I can swap it, and then it means that 5-3 that they got out quite safely is now mine, and I've given them that 1 point that I stole.
Oh, cool.
So that's the logic behind it, and unfortunately I didn't draw into a killer during the game, and a roto turret kept me out of HQ for the entire game, which was really annoying, but, shit happens. But no, it was really good, and I was playing with Drug Dealer as well, which...
It's a good combo.
It's very good. Like, it was the first time I saw Drug Dealer, I was playing against Rupert a few weeks ago, and I was just laughing the entire game because he installed 2 drug dealers maybe by his second turn, and then for the rest of the game just couldn't get enough money together to pay off the drug dealers and still have money left. So it basically felt like he was, jonesing for a fix, and then
he'd actually fallen prey to drug dealers.
It's why I couldn't stop laughing. It was so funny, and because he'd there's no point me clicking for 1 credit with my last click because my drug dealer is going to take it away from me on my next turn. So he was in a constant state of just bad luck. But I'd always managed to kind of keep enough money together to make sure I had enough for the drug deals going on.
Yeah.
But no, drug dealer is super good card, and drawing on the corpse turn is just such a good ability as well. You basically get a mandatory draw when they do, and it's so good, very good. And criminal tends to have money to spare. But yeah, I'm quite enjoying it. I wish I'd had more chance to put pressure on HQ, because I had stuff like legworks and account siphons piling up in hand, which I couldn't use because I couldn't get past the fucking roto turret. That fucking end the run subroutine. Oh.
Yep.
But other than that,
it's
really,
cheap, it's cheerful, it ruins your day.
Really liked it though. And also, Fisk Investment Seminar is just phenomenal. Like, I'll give you 3 extra cards, so you're now on 8. I'll run the run that central server, give you another card, and then see a card. So then the corp's like, shit, I'm on 9-10 cards in hand. It really puts pressure on their next turn. It's not to be underestimated. Investment Seminar, really good card. Yeah, really, really like it.
Oh, cool.
And the other deck that I was playing, it's affectionately called Team Turtles at the moment, and I think this is what quite a few people are playing now that Team Sponsorship is out. So I think I mentioned this either on the last episode or the one before, how I was getting a bit frustrated how every time I built an NBN deck, it kind of became a
fast
Butcher Shot deck.
Kill.
Yeah, fast advance or a kill deck. And so I was like, right, I'm going to try and do something completely different. And then Team Turtles happened, and the ethos of the deck is draw a ton of cards, install a ton of cards, and bring back as many cards as you can from archives when you can. So I've got 2 cricks in there for additional fun, because no one expects that in NBN. Errand Boy is I still love Errand Boy over HQ. I don't think I'd ever play it over R&D again, purely because
I can see that.
I think with HQ it's if you draw into an agenda with the first subroutine, then it's like, all right, especially if they're coming at HQ, it's like I can just flood my hand with more cards and lower the chance of you going to hit the agenda. Whereas on R&D, I'm always super paranoid that the card that I draw will then leave an agenda for them on the next card down. So
naturally,
I think just purely for my own psychosis, and
buyer's remorse. I think.
I think the Errand Boy's buyer's remorse is the issue I have there. And then it's just stuff like DBS, Team Sponsorship, Turtlebacks. It's being able to score out an agenda, and then Team Sponsorship something out which triggers 3 Turtlebacks and your ID ability to get you 3 credits and another card draw. It's good. It's very, very good. And I managed to win a game without even installing a Sansan, which was quite nice.
Cool.
So yeah, and I'm trying Quicksand in there as well as an additional cheap kind of end the run, but then I was very sad as my opponent put a Fem token on it, which meant it would forever stay at strength 2.
I should uninstall and reinstall.
Yeah, there's always that. But no, I quite like that. It's I think it needs a bit more tinkering, and I'd like to put some more kind of, I don't know, I feel I want more assets in there, but I'm already running 13 or 5 different assets.
I'm sure you could bump that up to 20 at least.
Easily. I want.
You got all the pad campaigns in there, right?
Oh, of course. I want to squeeze in diversified portfolio to get you a credit for every server you have. But,
it is a very good card.
It's like, do I drop the hedge funds, but they're good early game? I don't know. But I'd forgotten how good Architect is out of NEH as well. Just being like, okay, so I've got an agenda, then 2 assets and an econ card and an asset. So what I'll do is I'll pull out the asset, which was the second card down, install that, which will then trigger the draw, and then that agenda goes into my hand and nice and safe away from you. Just perfect. Architect in Neareth Hub is just phenomenally good. I've forgotten how great it was. That's what I've been playing. Those 2 games of Netrunner I've squeezed in the last month.
Oh, it's bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes, guys, you just don't have time for a hobby. Sometimes you have to be a grown-up. It sucks. Oh, dear. Right, well, what I want you to do is tell me about the other living card game you've played. Because you said you think I'd really like it. I want you to sell me the Game of Thrones LCG. Because I played the first edition.
Oh, right.
And it was shit. I really didn't like it. I know there are fans out there, really big fans, but I did not enjoy that game. I found it so laborious.
What was it that made it laborious, or made you?
It was just there was so much stuff going on. Just like you had to. I can't. You know what? I only played a few games, so I probably had a really bad teacher. But you had 3 different decks, and then you had to get a certain number of points, but the points just went back and forth, and I didn't really understand the scoring. And then it was just this could be much better if you just chilled out. Just chill the fuck out. I don't know. It's like Doomtown, actually. Same reason I didn't really get on with Doomtown. Because there was just so much shit to think about.
Yeah, this is what I thought a little while ago. Maybe I have space in my life for a second LCG, and Doomtown Reloaded had just been launched. And I was like, this kind of looks interesting, but there was just something about it that I don't know. I'm sure it's a great game, and I've watched a couple of kind of tournament plays on Team Covenant and stuff since, and it's just it doesn't really appeal to me so much. I'm not sure what it was about it that kind of turned me off, and I don't know if it's the fact that it's the Netrunner is very structured, and you kind of have your service here, and the runner can kind of arrange a little bit as they want. And Doomtown, it kind of felt that kind of cards went a bit everywhere, and it didn't really, I don't know, it didn't really follow kind of a structure in a way, but I don't know, I'm sure it does, and there are different places you can go to and stuff like that, and I like the poker hand aspect to it as well. But I think maybe it's because I saw a video about deck building for Doomtown, and the way you deck build is by kind of putting together cards that make you likely to draw a poker hand you want.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, well, that's not really taking into account the card abilities and stuff. But I'm sure I'm getting this wrong, and I'm more than happy to be proved wrong and shown how awesome Doomtown is by someone.
Yeah,
but,
I'm with you. It just seemed overly complex for what it was. I like structured games, and I like the fact that Netrunner is an overtly complex game, but actually there's a simplicity at the heart of it.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep track of 20 different things all the time.
Well, so it depends how complex you make your deck.
Yeah.
But no, Game of Thrones, I watched some videos on Team Covenant a few months ago now, and I was kind of like, I can't remember why I decided to watch them. I think it was just a lull in the Netrunner coverage.
Because you were,
need to watch.
You were like me, you were just bored or sat on the toilet, just card games.
So I thought, I did want to get into Game of Thrones 1.0, but that was at the same time I got into Netrunner, and I was like, well, it's been going for 7 years at this point, or however many years it had at the time. It's like, that's a lot of cards to get. It looks very expensive to get into now, and that immediately put me off. So I think when I heard about 2.0, I was like, actually, I can get in on the ground floor, which is basically where I did with Netrunner, even though I kind of got in one cycle late.
It was basically on the ground floor.
Yeah.
It was on the ground floor with me.
Yeah. So. Well, I got my core set quite early, because you were with me when I got my core set, and that was only a few data packs in, but then I didn't start playing until midway through spin cycle. But no, yeah, so I thought I'll get on the ground floor. It looks really interesting, and I watched the videos, and to be honest, it didn't make a lot of sense to me at first from because they were kind of talking about the cards and not really about the game as a whole. And then after I watched the Learn to Play video that Fantasy Flight put out, it's like, oh, okay, I kind of understand how the state how the turns work, and this kind of looks interesting. And then after I watched that, I rewatched the episodes that Team Covenant had put out about the different faction previews they were doing, and it made a lot more sense because I understood what standing was and kneeling was, and all the other kind of intricacies of the turn. I was like, oh right, so I can see how that card would work now, so that makes more sense to me. But I'll do my best, like thematically as well. Like if you're a fan of the books or the TV shows, then it's just like the cards are just so thematically appropriate. So yeah, it's really neat. Like because there are 8 factions in the game. There's the Baratheons, Greyjoys, Lannisters, Martells, Starks, Targaryens, Tyrells, and the Night's Watch. And each faction is all about something different. Yeah. So the Targaryens are all about basically using fire and lowering your opponent's strength. So yeah, they'll burn you basically with Dracarys and their dragon cards and stuff like that. And then you've got Tyrells, who, you know, they're the ones with the rose on their emblem, and they're all about growing stronger. So they're all about boosting the strength of their faction cards. And then you've got the Lannisters, who are intriguing as fuck and all about intrigue challenges. And just being rich is the Lannisters' ability, because most of their cards will generate them money. And then you've got people like the Night's Watch, who are all about defending the wall card and recruiting people from your opponent's deck, which is just hilarious when you can be like, yeah, I'm going to play this 3-cost event and then recruit that, you know, that guy you were just about to play. He's now works for me. He's a brother.
I'm recruiting your Jeff.
And then the Greyjoys are basically like Anarchs, and they're all about... They have an ability called Pillage, which is basically Noise's Virus Mill.
Okay.
And then they're all about stealthing in, killing characters, and burning locations, and then sneaking out again. And it's just like... brilliant.
See, that sounds like my kind of deck.
Yeah, and then you've got stuff like the Martells are really interesting, because they're all about the late game. So they're not really too bothered about the early game. They'll defend, and they'll play on, and they get stronger. So you have, in addition to your deck of characters and locations and events and attachments, you have a plot deck, and each plot basically gives you some money for that turn and some score to determine the turn order and stuff like that. And it'll also have abilities that do certain things, like you might have one which means that your opponent can't do military challenges on their turn and stuff like that. There are 7 cards in your plot deck, and the Martells grow stronger with each plot that you've played. So by the end of the game, when you have like 6 plots in your discard pile, they're just stupidly strong. And they can like turn the game around in just like the last 2 turns. It's ridiculous. And then the Baratheons are all about making your opponent... the Baratheons basically kind of the long game, like make the opponents kneel, so tap their cards so they can't attack you. And can't stand them back up again to attack you next turn and stuff like that. It's just, yeah. And intrigue challenges, which is one of the 3 types of challenges which the Lannisters specialise in. They're basically, if you think about them, they're a cross between Jinteki and Wayland. Because they have the money of Wayland, and intriguing, if you win an intrigue challenge, the opponent discards a card at random from their hand. So they basically do the net damage of Jinteki with the money of Wayland, which is what makes them such a scary house to run or play against. But yeah, it's again so thematic and just crazy and just yeah.
You love it.
I can hear it in your voice. I'm crazy about it already. I've only played a couple of games, and it's stuff like I think one of my favourite card abilities is Loras Tyrell, whose ability is he can do military challenges, which if you win them, your opponent kills one of their characters that's in play, and he can do power challenges, which if you win one of those means you take a power from your opponent's faction and put it on your faction. And you need 15 power to win the game, so he kind of helps with that. And his ability is, while he's attacking alone, the defending player can't declare more than 1 defending character. So he basically turns it into a joust, which is, I just think, so fucking good. Like, just that 1 card, it just made me, yeah. So, yeah. And then you have Tywin Lannister's ability, which makes him, for each piece of gold you have left in your gold pool during your turn, he has 1 additional strength for each additional gold. So the richer you are, the stronger he is. And, yeah, it's cool. It's very cool. And yeah, it's really weird. So I played a couple of games with Becky, and I couldn't really play properly because I was under strict instructions to let her win, or she would never play again. So I couldn't really play properly against her.
That says way too much about your relationship.
She's crazy competitive. Yeah,
it's a good thing that like, this is going to sound weird. It's a good thing me and her aren't together because that we'd probably kill each other.
Yeah.
Like,
just the need to win between you would be too much.
Well, I don't need to win. I just feel like I should be the one winning. Like,
see, Becky needs to win.
Yeah, she needs to be validated.
Yeah. No, to be honest, there are times where you know that Simpsons episode where the PTA
God, I feel
disbands.
so bad when just talking smack about your girlfriend.
Sorry, she doesn't listen to this. No, I love you really, Becky. But no, it's the episode where the PTA disbands in The Simpsons, and Lisa's just like, validate me, validate. That's Becky at times. She's like, she needs that reassurance. She's the best.
Can I bring some really competitive games around and destroy her?
That'd be kind of funny to watch.
So just coming up to me before the game. Now I have to remind you, like, Becky has told me to tell you have to let her win, and I was like, I want you to tell Becky to eat it, right?
Yeah, but I played like my first proper game on last night, the Tuesday meet, against a fellow Netrunner advocate who was super excited about playing the game, Game of Thrones. So I was like, all right, cool, right. So Mark and I were playing the game, and I'd kind of built the starter deck, the kind of expanded starter deck, because initially it tells you just play only the Stark cards and some neutral versus only the Lannister cards and some neutral. But the expanded ones is Stark and Greyjoy plus neutral, and Lannister and Tyrell plus neutral. So I kind of gave him a free choice. Up till then, I'd only been playing Stark, so I was kind of happy I got to play Lannister, and he was playing Stark, so I was like, well, I'll get to see something else. But basically, I got to the point where I had so much intrigue on the board, he just couldn't defend against me. So every turn, I could do an additional intrigue challenge with one of the locations that I had. I had Cersei Lannister in my on my board, who basically meant they discarded 2 cards instead of 1 if I won an intrigue challenge. If I won intrigue challenges, I drew a card with another card that I had out. I had this whole crazy intrigue engine going, and I was just destroying Mark because he couldn't draw cards because I'd just go first and just wipe his hand out, and he just had nothing to play. But no, it's so much fun, and the thing that I like about it as well is you start kind of on like the 3rd turn, if that makes so. You at the start of the game, you draw 7 cards each, and then you put up to 8 golds worth of cards down to start the game with. So you basically, instead of kind of having that whole setup phase like you do in Netrunner, where in the kind of the early game, one person's at a bit of a disadvantage, or you're both kind of trying to set up as fast as you can. In Thrones, it's just, right, here are my 8 gold worth of cards. There are your 8 gold worth of cards. Let's see how these first few turns go. Did you put any military down? Because I have military. And it kind of works similar to Magic in that way, that it's kind of, you're playing the same game against each other, and you're just trying to get to, instead of killing each other, you're trying to get to 15 power first. And there are so many ways you can do it. You think, even if you go first, it's like, well, I could do all 3 of my challenges, but then that might leave me open to him doing challenges and then me not having enough people to defend, because the defending nature of the game is that you have to beat their strength for them to basically bounce off you, Netrunner style. If it's equal to or less than, then they win. So then you get into this whole thing of chump blocking, which is something that I'm familiar with from the couple of games of Magic that I played. And it's just like, well, you're going to beat me on this challenge anyway, but if I don't declare any defenders, you win unopposed, and that gets you a bonus power, which obviously gets you quicker to victory. But if I put this teeny-weeny little card in the way, that's going to make it so it makes it so I'm opposing you, and you don't get that extra power. You're still going to win the challenge, but you don't get the power, which is crucial.
Yeah.
And then you draw... you basically have a 2-card mandatory draw each turn, so you kind of you have that card draw anyway, and you have other cards that help you get cards faster. But it has a really neat thing, because on each plot you have a reserve value, which is how many cards you have to discard down to at the end of your turn. So even if you draw like crazy to get stuff into your hand and cycle your deck, then you might play an amazing plot that only has a reserve value of 4, and it's like, oh, I'm going to have to discard like 5 of these cards now to get down to my hand size. So it kind of gives you the kind of impetus to play cards and get them on the board if they're characters or locations, or maybe play that event so you don't lose them, or don't. It kind of caps it to stop. Because I heard in 1.0 there was issues with people and the card draw in the deck, because it used to be a CCG and then transitioned to LCG. So that's why they added the reserve value, to make it so you can't basically draw like crazy. And then the challenges. Then you do the marshalling, which is basically installing after after you've drawn your cards, and yeah, you just kind of put down the characters and stuff that you can based on the amount of money that you have. And the money that you have is only there for that turn, because it's based on the amount of money on your plot card that you've chosen, plus any modifiers that you might have in play from, like, there's, who is it? Like, Tywin Lannister gives you 2 gold in addition to the gold you get from your plot card. So, that gold's only there until the end of that turn, and then it all goes away, and you start again from the gold on the next plot that you choose. Which I think is really interesting as well, because it means that no one can really get a massive money lead that can happen in Netrunner at times. It means you're kind of always bound to the kind of the plots that you have plus the modifiers, so that's kind of interesting as well.
It sounds quite interesting.
Yeah.
Like like I say, the whole, all the different sides of it make it sound very. It sounds like it might be right up my thing, especially with the different factions.
Yeah.
Like, I think like maybe with the first one, it was just like it didn't. I don't think it was formed right yet.
Yeah. I mean, I've described it very sporadically and not in necessarily in sequence, but it's a lot of fun to play. There are a few things that make it. Well, it's certainly a lot easier to learn than Netrunner, and that's part and parcel of the fact that instead of having a convoluted Netrunner style rules book that they now have a learn to play guide which walks you through your first game, and then they have a rules reference, which is all the keywords and all the things you might want to know to look up very quickly. So in terms of actually finding out rules and the intricacies of the game, it's a lot faster and a lot quicker to pick up. And the fact that you're both playing the same game instead of the asymmetric nature of Netrunner also makes it a bit quicker to learn. So you're not learning Corp and Runner, now you're just learning, your house. And the way that influence works is also a bit different to Netrunner. So instead of going up to however many is on the ID, you now can basically pull in the banner of another house. So, for example, you'd have like Lannister with the banner of Tyrell, and that means you can have I think it's 12 non-loyal Tyrell cards in your deck, in addition to all the Lannister cards and neutral cards you want. And the way that works is there are cards which are forever loyal to their faction, and they have a little scroll underneath the crest. So someone like Tywin Lannister is always loyal to House Lannister. But then you have someone like Tyrion, I think it's Tyrion, he's not loyal to Lannister. And a lot of that is based on kind of how that character lives in the world, in kind of the TV show and the books. So, for example, a lot of the Stark cards aren't loyal to the Stark house, because the Starks go off and do all these other things, and they kind of spread around the world. So, like, and obviously
they go do cool shit.
And like Ned is obviously really loyal to Robert Baratheon, so obviously making him a non-loyal Stark means you can put him into a Baratheon deck. Yeah. And like Jon Snow is not loyal to the Night's Watch because of his allegiance with the Starks, so he can pull him over to a Stark deck. And and also the Starks have direwolf cards. And and there's also a really cool mechanic called Ambush, where if you have gold left during the Challengers phase, you can suddenly go, okay, here's a direwolf from my hand that you weren't expecting. And jump them out, which is just thematically hilarious. But yeah, highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun, and I'm sure I'm forgetting other things that I really wanted to mention. But yeah, it's crazy good. Oh, that was the other thing. That was it. The core set is mostly one-offs, which means that it gives you a really good flavour of a lot of different stuff that's in the game. And also means that if you're a mad person and want to buy 3 of them, then it makes the third one a lot better value, because you are getting a ton of the third of. Because again, like Netrunner, it's 3 of a card is the max you can have in the deck. But no, I definitely say, and a lot of people already said this, that one core set is good for learning. But if you want to start building proper decks, then you're going to need a second core set. But even then, you're still getting like massive. Like, I was really sad and a little bit bored. And I binged and I was binging on The Walking Dead because I realised how far behind I was. And so while I was catching up with Series 4 and 5, I decided to reorganise my Netrunner cards because I had them over like 5 different binders, sorted by faction and then card type, and then within card type release order. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to try putting them in just solid release order now.
Oh god.
And I took out all the duplicate cards that I had, because I realised how much space they were taking up and how little I actually use a lot of the duplicates. So I have 9 Sure Gambles, but I very rarely use more than just 3 of them. So I was like, I'll put all these duplicates back into my Netrunner box. And there's so many duplicates that you get, like that become, you've got an additional 6 or an additional 3 of these cards. It's like shit. Right, there's a lot of duplicates. Whereas with Game of Thrones, you're going to have very, very few duplicates by the time you get a third core set, which is quite a nice thing in a way. But yeah, highly recommend trying out Game of Thrones. I think you can play an Octagon at the moment. But yeah, watch, if you're interested, the FFG tutorial video. It's about 17 minutes long and gives you a nice overview of some of the things I've touched on. And then the Team Covenant faction. In fact, they did ones for around, what was it, Gen Con, where they actually looked at every single card that came in the core set. So if you're interested, they're probably the ones to check out rather than their previews that they did a little while ago. I'll probably put links to them all, but you can find them on the Team Covenant YouTube page anyway.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, I would highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. I've only played like 3 games of it, but I'm really, really enjoying it. And it sold out super fast when it came out the other week. So I was very lucky to have actually managed to sneak to my local game store on release day and pick up I was going to buy 2 at the same time.
Oh, you shouldn't have.
I only bought the 1 because they only had like 5 on the shelf, and I felt bad for taking 2.
Oh,
so
you didn't.
No, I'll just buy the 1. I bought a second one since because like now I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna actually build some proper decks with this, and hopefully I'll get a few more. I think there's a few people at the Tuesday group who are into Thrones now, so hopefully get to play some games with them soon.
Traitor.
But I'm quite enjoying teaching it at the moment because, like I say, it's a hell of a lot easier to teach than Netrunner because you can be the first player, do your stuff, and then the second player, your opponent, is gone. Okay, I've seen exactly what you did on this part of the turn. Now I do the same thing. It's a heck of a lot easier to teach, and so a lot of fun. Super good. Definitely enjoying it. Check it out. Game of Thrones 2.0. Do it.
Okay, all right, we get it. Jesus, chill out.
So what else have you been doing besides not playing Netrunner?
I have become kind of obsessed with a game called Subterfuge, which I've got you into, and we are currently having a small, vicious battle.
I'm trying not to play it as we record.
I know, it's rough, isn't it? I highly recommend you don't look at it until
13 days from now when you win.
No, 12.0 hours from now. It's a game. It's based off a game called Neptune's Pride, which I played a little bit when I was younger with my friends, which is a real-time strategy game. And by real-time, I mean moves take approximately 12 hours to complete.
Yeah.
So Neptune's Pride was a game that you play in space. And in space, you were the owner of a fleet. You had little planets that you would go and conquer. And the idea was to get I think it was a certain number of victory points, or a certain percentage of the planets would be yours, or production would be yours. I can't really remember. But a new game has come out called Subterfuge, which is essentially a reskinning, remodeling of that game, making it much nicer to play. It's on Android and on iOS. And you're essentially playing under the sea. One of the things they added to it was the specialists and things like that, which is quite nice. So you get a certain number of outposts which produce drillers, which I imagine are just like big daddies in my head. They are just many, many big daddies. And you float around trying to... Essentially, you can win by eliminating your opponent's queen, or gathering 2,000 Neptunium.
I think it's just 200.
200 Neptunium? I don't know. I'm loading it up now to see. But it's incredibly tactical and has led to... I think me and you, for the last few days, every so often we'll look at our phone and just going, "You son of a bitch." Like, the sudden rush that woke me one day where I was like, Mark has launched, was it 3 or 4 subs with... I was like, oh god, he's making a play. He's making a move on my queen. It's like, and there was a genuine point where I was like, do I have to evacuate? Like, do I have to evacuate my queen?
That's what I was kind of hoping you would do, but you stayed
do I leave
put.
my... but you can plot and see what happens in the future, because you know when they're on your sonar, you can see when subs are going to be arriving, so you can advance time to see when they're coming in. So I managed to survive, I think, by just sending drips and drops of troops to my queen's outposts, and now I'm very well fortified, which I'm quite happy with. And I've captured a lot of your specialists, which I'm kind of surprised you haven't made a play for yet.
Well, who knows what the future holds.
Yeah, exactly. But one of the things, so because it takes a long time, you can check it. It's on your phone as well, which is just murder.
Yeah.
But it's a long form game, which means that you can play for a long time. And one of the things I want to do is get people involved in it, make it more widely known. And secondly, I want to play some games with more people, because a 2-person game is good. Don't get me wrong, Mark. You're a worthy adversary. But I think we both agree
we need more people.
This is going to ruin our friendship if it's just for the two of us playing. Yeah, we need more people, so I'm going to try and get as many people, and maybe we'll start we can start a small Nerdrunners game.
Yeah, that'd be quite cool.
Nerdrunners Subterfuge. The battle for the seas. But that's kind of stuff. And then I've just been playing video games as well. So I've been playing a lot of Blood Bowl 2 in my downtime.
Oh yeah,
which is quite nice.
What's is that this kind of American football-y type?
It is. Yeah, it is. Warhammer meets American football.
Okay.
Meets rugby. It's. Yeah, I played it a hell of a lot when I was younger, when I was into Warhammer. And it's a game where the rules are you can score a touchdown, but most people dedicate their time to trying to kill the other team members.
Fair enough.
Like trying to kill the opposition.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. There are several YouTubers, like a lot of people who do Polaris, who've done like speedball leagues and things like that. If you're interested in it, but I've always had a lot of fun, and I've been playing that. And the Nathan Drake collection came out, so I've been playing that, and I'm on Uncharted 3 now. I have powered through the first 2 games.
Nice. What are you thinking as someone who's only come onto PlayStation now and kind of missed out on the Uncharted games before?
Uncharted 1 sucked. Like it wasn't a good game. I understand what they were trying to do. Uncharted 2 was much better. Like immediately, like you waking up on a fucking train hanging off a cliff. I'm like, oh, okay, things have got real now. And 3 is pretty good. Like I'm quite early on. I've just done the Chateau in France, so like I do now have a greater appreciation for the Penny Arcade comic, which is just Drake sat against like, guys, can you stop shooting at me for a second? Like, I don't know what they're paying you, but it can't be worth standing in a burning down building trying to kill me. It's just like, well, they do have good healthcare. It's like you're a bunch of guys versus one old woman, and you have all the guns. You're in a position of power when it comes to... Have you heard of aggressive negotiations? But no, that's what I've been doing in my small time. And of course, trying to spend time with my wife. And just a lot of cycling as well, really.
Yeah.
I've been bikes. All the bikes. I've done all the bikes. But yeah. Hopefully, more Netrunner in the future. I'm actually knocking around my hometown for a little bit, which will be nice. So, actually... if anyone wants to play Netrunner, feel free to send an email. I can't guarantee anything. But no, I'll hopefully have a bit more time. So next podcast, Mark. Next podcast. It'll be a good one.
Yes.
It'll be a thing.
Because I think I've been a little fatigued with Netrunner in the last month or two. Purely because there was such a huge influx of cards with Gen Con. And suddenly there were like 2 data packs and Data and Destiny kind of available to some people who went there. And then kind of all the spoilers were out and you could see all the cards. And it's just like, I think there's just like...
play with any of the
we can play with any of them. And just like your brain's a bit overloaded with stuff. And it's like, I just kind of want to play with some of this stuff now. But then it's like, well, but I know there's some good stuff coming out in the next pack. And so I think... Yeah, like
curses.
Again, especially with there being like 3 new runner factions, your mind immediately goes to, ooh, what could I do with Apex? He's interesting.
Yeah. Let's be honest, it's Apex. It's been I've looked at Sunny as well. I want to do the Cloud Breaker Sunny.
Yeah.
If only because I want to say bigger back bada boom, well, just to try and get through a server.
That would be quite good. Be definitely. Like Adam, I'm interested by because he's the new runner I think I could do the least with. I think it's because in my head, Apex is Anarch, Sunny's Criminal, and Adam's Shaper, and I can't play Shaper, which is probably why I can't get a good Adam deck down. And I have a fairly decent looking Apex and fairly decent looking Sunny deck ready to go. But I tell you something, like I am getting super psyched for Spark. Because I've been trying to do an economy denial MBN deck for some time, and I think Spark will finally allow me to do that.
It will be, I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see when it comes out, guys. But thank you for taking the time to listen to this random assortment of crap. How else do we How else we describe it?
So it's our. It's kind of like we've taken a mini break, and we're just chilling for a week, and then
But we have plans. Like, we're not out of ideas. We actually have probably about 6 months of content planned, which is
it's a scary thought in a way.
A big one. Yeah, but through Christmas into the new year, we're good. But everyone needs a holiday.
Yeah, and actually, literally being on a holiday and taking a break from Netrunner, figuratively and literally as well. Yeah.
Thank you for coming on holiday with Mark.
And check out Game of Thrones if you have space in your life for a second LCG.
Yeah.
Although at the very least, I feel that you could have a decent amount of fun with just the core set with Game of Thrones anyway. So.
Oh well, look, when it comes to New Year's, if we end up doing that, you and me are playing, and you're teaching me, and I'm going to destroy you.
Quite possibly, yes.
Or I'll lose horribly, because I always lose horribly to you.
Because we both play janky stuff, and it's just like I was saying to you before we started recording. I'm thinking about Power Tap in Sunny, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, why that actually makes a ton of sense.
It makes a ton of sense, but everyone's forgotten about Power Tap, which is a criminal card that gives you a credit whenever Trace is initiated, and Sunny can initiate traces. So
which is just good.
Not only that, but I was actually considering Disruptor in Sunny as well, which is the Anarch program which stops a trace and then restarts it at 0.
Yeah.
Which I just want to put these forgotten cards in decks now. Just like, right, my power tap Disruptor deck. It's going to be a thing.
It will be a thing.
And I've just remembered we have some reader mail.
What, do we have any reader mail?
Funny you should mention that, Steph. We totally have reader mail this week. So this is from Shane, who says, "Hey guys, I heard the Run Less Click guys mention you joining them on an episode of your show, so I figured I'd check out your show too. Because I'm a little OCD about these sort of things, I ran back to the start of the archives. I like that. Maybe unintentional punnage there. And have been making my way through. I just finished episode 9, and so far I'm loving it. You guys embrace jank like no other podcast I've heard, and it's really great to listen to. Steph's concept decks, like the student deck he was talking about in episode 9, reminded me of a deck I built a little while back. I think you might like this one. It all started when a podcast, I honestly don't remember which one, was talking about runner court pairings themed around different pairs of nemeses. As they were coming up with examples though, the hero was always the runner and the villain was always the corp. So I got thinking about it, and realised that Batman and the Joker were the perfect pair to turn that dynamic upside down. The Joker is clearly an anarch, and Batman owns Wayne Enterprises, which is clearly a corporation of some kind. Which corp faction would he fit into in Netrunner best? Well, he's a detective to the core, and generally defeats his enemies by finding out everything he can about them and using that information to his advantage. He's even known for creating a super satellite to spy on the entire city. NBN it is. As I got thinking about it more, I decided I wanted to build a Batman deck. I got thinking about what kind of deck it would be. It had to focus on tags, but Batman doesn't kill people, so it can't be a simple tag and bag deck. He needs to do something else with those tags. I've always been a sucker for the mid-season Psycho Beal combo, even if it isn't very reliable. So I decided that mechanically that would revolve around that first. At first I was going to avoid damage cards at all, but Batman does beat people up a lot. So I decided to include one private security force. Since you don't usually kill people with that anyway, you just force them to spend most of their turn drawing and desperately trying to clear the tag, or find another way to answer you as you chase them around, beating them up over and over. That seemed quite flavourful. From there, the deck kind of came together. There's a number of cards in there that don't see a lot of play, but did quite well for me. If you haven't lived until you've seen the look on someone's face when you sub-boost a bandwidth. Which is, I've got to say, it's perfect.
That's great.
I even posted it on Netrunner DB with a themed write-up. I'll post the link in the description for everyone as well. Sadly, nobody seemed to notice it. It doesn't have any comments or anything, so let's change that. Let's give it some comments and some likes and stuff. Hope you enjoy it. I've got another janky deck or two that I'd love to share if you want. Absolutely, Shane, we'd love to hear them. Sorry for the long email. I'm really bad at writing short ones. Have a great day. So thank you very much for getting in touch, Shane. That was a super awesome email, and I've got to say I do really like this idea of the Batman Corporation and the Joker Anarch.
Oh man, now we have to build some superhero decks. Oh man, like, oh no, Shane, what have you done to me? You've opened up this whole. Oh, all right, fine. I guess this is my life now. Superman Lex Luthor it is next, and then I'll go Marvel. Shall I?
Trying to think who Lex might be Wayne. Lex might be Wayland, I guess, because he's all about kind of mining and destroying the Earth. And
he could be Hasbiroid as well. He does have giant mech suits.
It's true. Yeah, I guess. Which runner would Superman be if he was going to be a runner? He'd probably be a shaper, I guess.
Oh, a shaper, wouldn't he? He's that kind of prick.
and green kryptonites. There's a nice pairing there.
That's a terrible pairing. You don't get it near green. What's the matter with you?
I suppose
he'd be a criminal. He'd be a criminal with a lot of anarchs splashed in
to avoid all
red
the
and
green.
blue.
There's like red kryptonite and black kryptonite these days. There's all kinds of it.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not a DC guy.
It's only because I watched a lot of Smallville like 10 years ago that I know that all these colours of kryptonite exist.
10 years ago or yesterday, Mark? That's what we all need to know.
I'd rather not say.
Understandable.
Cool, and we also had an email from Can as well, who says he's enjoying the podcast, but was struggling to find a way to download the episodes other than on iTunes. And I was messing around with the website at the time, so there should be a download link on the media player on the website. Hopefully that should be back and still working. If it's disappeared or you're having trouble downloading the podcast, I have been updating the website, like I said, so could be an issue there. Let me know otherwise. Hopefully it all works fine and you can... ironically, you won't be hearing this if you can't access the podcast, so it's probably the wrong place to talk about it.
Oh, you idiot.
On that note...
How do we say goodbye? Mark,
cool.
do the end of the show things.
Cool.
That you do.
So...
Were you just waiting for me to trigger that?
Yeah.
You just let me flounder.
Yeah, it's just you have to you introduce it because you don't remember all the things.
I know some of the things.
Cool. So you can find us online at canlaugh.com/nerdrunners, and if you go to the website, you might notice that it looks a little bit different because I spent some time.
I'm so proud of this website.
I put a lot of time and effort into making it look snazzy and new and exciting. If you're experiencing any dead links or stuff's not working or the podcast's not downloading properly, then let us know and I'll try and fix that. Otherwise, enjoy the shiny new look to the website. You can just leave us a comment through the comment section there. Otherwise, you can email us at nerdrunnerspodcast@gmail.com. You'll find the episode on Reddit. You can find us on Twitter. Find us on Netrunner DB, all the usual places, mostly by searching Nerdrunners. That's about it, I think. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the slightly non-Netrunnery episode. Normal service will resume next week.
We could, I suppose if people wanted to, we could talk about more games other than Netrunner if people were interested.
I'm happy to do like a mini Game of Thrones section in each episode if more people are interested in Game of Thrones and what I've kind of thought to it as I'm kind of learning a new LCG. As a Netrunner player, then I'm more than happy to talk a bit more about the Game of Thrones 2.0 sets.
And I will happily talk about anything, really. You could ask me about, cooking, weird sex tips. Mainly those two things. That's what I know. We'll cut that out. That should go in there. My parents listen to this podcast. This is a bad idea. It's a bad idea.
I think of all people, your parents would know about, your propensity for cooking and fucking.
But I don't think they've ever referred to it as that. Yes, my son is very good at culinary sports and lovemaking. Right, let's say goodbye, shall we?
So, thanks again for listening, everyone.
Yes, thank you very much, and goodbye.
Bye.
I've been listening to stuff by Sans Pants Radio, which is a bunch of Australians.
Yeah.
I burst out laughing earlier because they do these little things like Sans Pants Radio. My dad's a centaur and all that kind of shit. And it's like Sans Pants Radio, prepare your throat. And I was like, such a funny thing to exactly. See, you're like, what the fuck?
Okay.
Like Sans Pants Radio, prepare your throat.
It is funny.
It's also one of the main guys. It's called Joel Dusha. I'm like,
Dusha.
Dusha.